Alrighty. This is a visual representation of the banjos that I bought this year, or in a couple cases made. This is sort of a part two to the Jacquet collection that is also on YouTube. I wanted to show the banjos that I've gotten since I made that video, and it's been quite a year for uncontrolled banjo buying, as even I will admit. So I think I will walk through literally, and hopefully without stepping on any of these, and talk about a couple of them, or talk about all of them very briefly. So this one is probably New York made, roughly mid-1870s. Beautiful mahogany neck with figured maple on the first part of the banjo neck. Beautiful looking banjo, and plays real well. I'm real happy with that. I was lucky to find it. It's what I call the New York style of neck, with the undercut open part, and you can see the marquetry on the oak neck as well, and very heavy hooks and metal fittings. Anyway, beautiful banjo. Hope this isn't too dizzying. I don't have this on a tripod. Okay, this banjo is really cool. It's from about 1880 or late 70s. It's got an offset neck, which is very, very, very unusual. Very colorful veneer inlay there. I've never seen a offset neck like that. It's kind of fascinating. And the Federal shield, it's been speculated that this was right around the time of the centennial in 1876, and that was probably being marketed because of that, with the Federal shield. Cool banjo. Very visually appealing. Okay. This next one is an example of a simple, what they call a paddle-shaped peg head. Very simple banjo. Had to put a new neck on it, or rather a new skin on it, and it's got the eagle shields. And oddly enough, whoever built this didn't have enough eagle shields, and made the holes but didn't have enough eagles for them. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. Simple banjo. Yeah. Alrighty. This is another simple one, handmade, obviously hand-carved neck, peg head, with hand-carved pegs. This one does have what I call the New York style of probably buckbee-ish undercut neck. And this has two different styles of eagle shield, with the wings outstretched and the wings also down, which I kind of find fascinating. Another one I had to put a new head on. All right, let's see. This was a really well-built banjo. There was a maker in New York City in the 1880s by the name of Ernst Hammig, and he made really beautiful banjos with, those are flush fret markers. Again, the New York style and neck, but really, really well constructed. Probably a very expensive banjo at the time. Has guitar tuners up there, and interesting, it's a 6-string banjo, by the way, So it's I'm just using the extra string as a drone string, and it's very full sound to it. Nice banjo. All right, the next two here are British banjos. This was a 7-string banjo, and this one is a 6-string. They're what's called Tunbridge ware, from Tunbridge ware, England, and very unique style of marquetry that I've seen descriptions of how it was made, and I have no idea of how to even describe it. But very, very visually beautiful banjos. I'm real happy with both of these. Kind of fun. All right, stepping over carefully. Let's see if I can do this. All right. This one was a project banjo that some friends and I had built, and I'm real proud of it. It was made with an antique wooden planter for the pot. It's about 15.5 inches across. It's got handmade, I used nails for the hooks and bent them over on a vise, and a friend had a tool and die for the threads, and we made a wooden tension ring there, 2-ply. And I had seen a 19th century picture of a Colorado miner with a banjo. The peg head was shaped like a lyre, so I decided that's what I wanted. And my friend Eric made that. Kind of neat. Visually very cool banjo, and a big, deep, booming sound to it. It actually sort of echoes. I'm real proud of that banjo. It's took several months to build and a couple different tries to get the skin on correctly, and it's pretty cool. Very unique, I think. All right, this next banjo is one that I just got a couple days ago, and I cleaned it, and I put a new head on it. It's got a very incredibly unique peg that, fifth peg, I'm sorry, that can go either horizontally or vertically. Let's see if I can put this up there the other way. There we go. So that's the way it would have been in the older versions of banjos, the peg head orientation, or rather the 5th peg orientation. And I still haven't got it strung up. It needs work on the pegs. There's a couple that are busted off. I want to try and save the original pegs, so we'll have to cut them off a little bit shorter and refit them into those holes. But that's going to be kind of a cool banjo. It's also got kind of a, looks like an arrow was painted. It's an arrow facing up toward the peg heads. I haven't quite figured out what that represents or why it's there, but it's interesting. It's got a little frailing scoop. Thin brass pot. Kind of not sure of the age of this banjo because the square nuts indicate old, but this hexagonal shoe could be like the 1920s. So it's got an interesting history, whatever it is. It was covered with about 100 years of coal dust. I got it from a guy in rural Pennsylvania, and it took a lot to clean it off, as much as it is. But that'll be an interesting banjo to get playing again, because who knows how long it's been just sitting in this guy's shack. All right, moving on. This is a Sears Supertone banjo from the 1920s. It's got it's not even celluloid tree of life pattern. That is actually stenciled and painted on. These were very cheap mail order banjos. You could get them for $9. And actually at the time you could get a Sears banjo for $2. So this was kind of the high end. It's actually kind of fun to play. It's like I say, it's never been a expensive banjo, but it's fun to just sit and play. Again, I had to put a new head on that. That's fairly common. I tend to have to put new heads on most of these. All right, this was a real find. It's a 1886 Stewart Orchestra banjo. It's fretless. And what's fascinating about that is when frets on banjos got to be popular in the 1890s, a lot of the earlier fretless banjos were given frets, but this one never was. It's still fretless. Got this actually at a online auction other than eBay. This was an actual auction house. And I apparently was the only one bidding on it, so I was real happy about that. Again, had to put a new head on. Pretty cool. And big booming sound. The orchestra banjo, orchestra size Stewart's had about a 13 and a half inch pot. So big banjo, very extremely long neck on this. It's like a 31-inch scale, which is huge. Kind of fun. All right. This one is an old mountain banjo. It's probably from about 1910-ish, which would make it one of the earlier ones known, if that is correct, and I'm pretty sure it is. It's got what appears to be stovepipe in the middle, which is covering the middle wooden sandwich section. What's interesting about this is the two, sorry, that's not really showing as well, but there's two metal pieces on there that are I guess pounded into there, and there were tobacco tags, which when you bought chewing tobacco in the late 1800s and early 20th century, it came wrapped up in a piece of wire, and then there was the brand name tag that was on there, and somebody decided to put those on the banjo. And that's actually helping me possibly date this, because it says Winston, North Carolina, and in about 1913 or 14, Winston, North Carolina became Winston-Salem. So it's got to be right before that, I would think. All right, this is a homemade Butcher-style banjo that my friend Eric Prust made for me. Kind of beautiful scroll-shaped neck and figured maple neck. And I had him do a deep pot, kind of twice as deep as he normally does. And did a real nice job. Very loud, booming sound on that. All right, and this one is a British zither banjo. And these were known for the innovative, doesn't have the fifth peg going out to the side. It's got, the string goes up to the, where the fifth peg would be, and then tunnels up under the neck up to one of the pegs. So that was one of the differences. And it's also got a built-in wooden back. Different sound to it, a whole lot of treble, very little bass on this. Interesting banjo. And then the last one I'm going to show you, if you're still there, is a homemade banjo that I made out of a wooden salad bowl. Peg head, as you could see. And I got a neck on, an old antique neck online. And it's got somebody had put a brass on the neck. Probably someone, I'm assuming that was a modern thing. It probably originally was a fretted banjo. But anyway, so the neck is pre-built. The hard part is always fitting it to the bowl. But you can make a lot of good music out of something like this. So that turned out pretty good. Anyway, that's the visual representation of my banjo addiction for this year. Like I said, I've got probably, that's the rack where a lot of these banjos came out of. I've got, if not 50, 49, I think, right now. And we will see if I get many more or if I go bankrupt. But it's a lot of fun. All right. Hope you enjoyed this. And this is the the 2019 part 2 of the Jacquet banjo collection. See ya.